Yokomenuchi Otoshi Mi, this is the side knife hand strike body drop. This is our duck. Make sure that you're not doing it just from the waist, but you're also bending your knees and entering in slightly with irimi. Keep your center under you. Sagiashi dachi, this is the one-legged stance. We derived this from the 22 Jo kata. And if you notice, the foot sweeps back towards us as we either drop with a strike overhead or protect our face or center line. This is very important. You don't want to just leave your upper line unprotected, but this is a good way to either evade a strike coming at the low line or a kick. Here from the side, you're going to make sure that you're on balance and centered as you perform this technique. And again, from the other side, you can see the angle of the base foot. We can also block the kick using it as a shock absorber to the inside or outside, depending on the angle of the kick. Choyaku shikko, this is our spinning knee walk variation. So just make sure that you bring your knee in towards the opposite knee as you spin in a circle. We're going to try to make it all the way to 180 degrees so that we can open our knee and hips up and proceed in the same direction. So as you can see, I bring my knee in. I'm going to spin on the knee as I pull the other one open at the hip. Here you can see it again without the hakama. Now we're doing what's called the long method. We're doing the hardest method. It's easier to just step forward and spin from there, but we're trying to bring both knees together and find our center as we spin and open our hips. Happo undo, this is our 8-direction aikiage. As in the previous test, you've learned the 4 directions. Now you're going to do the X line that intersects the 4, totaling the full 8. So here you do left slide, right slide, left slide, right slide, then left step at the X line, right slide, left step at the X line, right slide. So here's your full 8. 4 lines and then intersecting with the X lines and face back forward. Yoko ukemi. This is a side break fall. So what you're going to do is swing your leg up higher than your shin. Lower yourself on the base leg as you swing your arm across your body to the far side of your shoulder. And then you're going to slap upon impact and then let your feet follow, hitting with the side of your leg. Now, this is used a lot if you're swept off the front, even can be the back, depending on what angle you're at. Just make sure you protect your head. Sankaku ashi with atemi. This is your triangular stepping footwork with a strike. Now first pay attention to my hands. I parry the outside arm so that I can pass through on the outside of his body and then come through with that strike to the back or side of the neck, depending on if he's turning at the time or if he's still facing forward. Now footwork, I'm stepping out to the side and in with irimi, and then I'm going to come behind his center with the other foot in a sweeping triangular motion. So notice heel to heel and then come back out, step forward, pivot, and that's going to help you face him as you're striking behind his neck. So here you can see I'll enter behind, turn, pivot, and hit. Ushiro Tekubishime Kaiten ashi with atemi. This is your rear hands grabbed, rotary step, and hit. I open my front foot and hip, stepping all the way around in line with his toes. Let's see it from the front. Open. So make sure you open the hip, turn that foot outside. And that's the front foot. You're going to step around as you raise your arm up and step towards or in line with the pinky toe. Right there, and throw the atemi. Pay attention to how I escape the hand. Bring it up to about shoulder level, head level. 9 times out of 10, it will pry off, but in case it doesn't, your head can sneak under the elbow. Here's the strike. It can be a hook punch or an overhand, and it can go right into your waza. Ryotedori Shihogiri Omote. This is the 2-on-2 4-direction cut entering exercise. Notice I start in Aihanmi, and I open that front foot up so that I can enter with a walking step. My shoulder goes almost under his armpit, driving forward, turning his body in the direction that I'm facing. As I get my hips through and pivot, I make sure that I raise my hands in aikiage, keep it in front of my center as I cut down, letting his body rest on my tricep. Ryotedori Shihogiri Ura. This is the 2-on-2 hand grab, 4-direction cut exercise to the rear, Ura. We start in Gyaku Hanmi in this, where both feet are facing each other. All I'm going to do is take a step towards his pinky toe as I pivot and do a tenkan as my hands raise up in Aikiage and cut down in front of my center. And then notice from this direction, I come very close to him, shoulder to shoulder, as we pivot so that I can draw him around, and notice how his arm bends in that Shihonage position. I pivot here, finishing Shihogiri. Morotedori Wannuki. This is the 2-hand on 1 grab and the escape or Hazushi style by cutting upwards, almost like an upward elbow. But notice I drop my hip under as I raise up and cut towards his center line, pulling just slightly away from his grasp. Morotedori Uchi mawari Hazushi. This is the 2 hands on 2 around inside escape. We also call it the under escape. I cut the inside grip off as I move my body to the outside and draw my arm towards the outside of my hip. So it's almost like drawing a sword. But notice, to get my head under, I actually prop it up on my shoulder and tricep and slide my head under. I don't lift it up, or he can just release or re-grab me in a better grip. So I'm going to make sure that he stays on, thinking he's grasping me. As I turn my hip and enter with a walking step, I make sure I prop it, and then I just slide my head under. Turn the back of your hand over, capturing his bicep and forearm, stepping backwards, drawing him towards you, and then place your other hand on his neck as you control. Morotedori Soto mawari Hazushi. This is the 2 hands on 2 outside around escape. So notice I still cut the hand off as normal, turning your body and hip towards the direction of the grasping hand. But with the outside cut, notice it's very similar to nikyo. It's a circular motion. We're just going to cut down, around, and outside of the wrist, doing a tenshin step. Here we're going to take a false grip on the outside of his wrist so that we can cut him down and forward. Let's see it once again. On the other side, cutting the wrist, drawing him downward. Notice that stretches him out. I'm going to turn my hand over, grab under his forearm and bicep, and I'm going to cut down on the back of his neck. Shown from behind, cut the wrist off, do tenshin, create the nikyo, false grip, pull him down, turn the hand over, control arm and head. And now a little closer view. Naname geri. This is your oblique kick or diagonal kick. So notice it closes off at the hips, but we're still going to push forward from the front leg, and we're going to use our rear leg to kick up and through with the knee at an angle, striking with the heel. And you can do this either in a sliding motion forward to actually kick using almost like the tension of the ground or friction of the ground, and then it releases, or you can stomp down with the kick. Make sure to keep the toes pointed outward as the heel points inward, and you can use this to keep the person away or set up another kick. Ushiro Ryokatadori Ushiro MP. This is rear shoulder grasp, rear elbow. Make sure that when you elbow, you're using the nearest side, not the farthest. And we're going to actually hit with the elbow as we push with our other palm and rotate the elbow or fist over to an under position so that we can use the uke nagash to prop that side up so that we can use it as an escape route, getting our head or body out. So notice I use uke nagash, and then I will contact or control the hand that's grasping on that side so that I can get my head out and actually do a waza. Shitazuki, upset punch. I will cover my face or grab the gi at the shoulder or lapel as I enter in and close the distance as I piston punch, rubbing my forearm close to my abdomen, drive with my rear leg, turn my hip slightly, and enter in and hit. Be aware that my fist is palm up as I strike. Munezuki Sotogiri Tenkan. This is the punch to the midsection, outside cut, Tenkan meaning turn the hand over. It's a capture deflection. So as you can see, I enter in with Irimi, and as I do, make sure you use your elbow and forearm to deflect the punch away from center line. Then the hand also points towards the shoulder and bicep, and when it comes down as he retracts, it falls over his wrist and hand. This way you can stay connected to it and actually move into a setup in order to do a technique. Maegeri Surisage. This is the front kick with a downward sliding block. I cover my center line and sweep it. Make sure you keep that one hand up in front of your face to protect in case the kick goes high, but you're also going to cover the mid and slight low line with that other hand. The back of the hand contacts the leg and then rotates outward. Here you can see it in slow motion. I drive it from one corner to the other corner, shoulder to hip, and I cover that center line so that if he's kicking into the center, I can still block that side. I have both hands to cover high and low line, sweep it outward. Also, you can use this to cut down and into an arm as well. Yokomenuchi Aikisage Tenshin ashi with atemi. That's a mouthful. It is your side strike to the side of the head, quarter turning step with the two-hand downward block, and the strike. Notice I started Gyaku Hanmi here, and as he steps forward to strike me, I just step offline and turn my hip and body. Hit in with the front hand as the rear hand guides the arm down at the bicep and forearm, and lightly grasp his hand in the center of your body with both hands. Kosetedori Shihonage Omote. This is the cross hand wrist grab, 4-direction throw. In front of. Raise your grasp hand up so that the thumb comes over the top of his wrist, drawing him in and down towards your center. This will create kuzushi or off balancing. As you do, go ahead and turn your front foot open so that your hips are open and step in with ayumi-ashi, getting your hips underneath him. Make sure you bring your head to his wrist as you enter your hips in. And then as you turn around, make sure your hips continue moving in that same direction. This is very important. You don't want to leave your hips behind. Don't just try to re-grab or you're never going to get him to move. You have to come up and over the top. Perform Aikiage in front of you. Don't let it drift from your center. This is also going to create some torque on his shoulder as you turn around and cut down. So again, here we go. Create the Aikiage. Enter under with your hips. Make sure his elbow's up in the air, applying pressure to the back of his hand. Step through, elbow and shoulder under his armpit as we turn and go through, taking his posture. Also, apply pressure on the back of the knuckles and pull with the thumbs against the wrist. As you do, it will arch his back, creating imbalance in his spine. Notice open foot, ayumi-ashi step in. Aikiage, get your head to his wrist. Slide your hip under as you stay very close to him. As I do, I turn around and then cut him down in a sword strike motion. This part is like hasso-gamai, where you keep the sword alongside your head. Then cut down. Kosetedori Shihonage Ura. This is the cross hand grab, 4-direction throw to the rear. Step in line with this pinky toe as you pivot and do tenkan behind you. We're going to grasp his wrist using Kosetedori Hazushi Chudan from the previous testing requirements. And we're going to draw him in and towards us as we turn. The turn is very similar to mawashi geri. Notice I just use a big turn of my hip. This is the Aikido 2-step again. And as you do, draw him off balance. Now, in order to do that, you want to make sure that his elbow is up and you apply pressure to the back of his knuckles, which causes his posture to bend backwards, thus creating the kuzushi to cut down and throw him. Now, this one's a modification, grabbing his thumb so that it's very difficult for him to resist or pull his arm backward, thereby continuing the throw even if there's resistance. Ryotedori Hijikase Nage Omote. This is the 2-hand-on-2 elbow shackle throw to the front. Start in Gyaku Hanmi, the classical stance. Your feet should be mirroring each other. Do your standard katate dori hazushi to escape that grip so that you can grab under his tricep. As you do, draw your outside leg out as your arm draws towards the outside as well. You can see it on this side where you're going to skim under the tricep and elbow. Make sure that you're applying pressure in towards you as you're drawing your other hand out away from you. Notice I use my hip and shoulder to draw in and then back out as I project him away from me as I throw. Here, your footwork is the Sankaku, so you create the triangle here. So as you draw out, that opens the arm up for the grasp under the elbow and tricep. And then, of course, you're going to draw him in and extend out to throw. Ryotedori hiji kase nage ura. This is the two hand on two elbow shackle throw to the rear. Start an aihanmi and then of course step to the inside of his big toe as you pivot. Again, you're going to create the katate dori hazushi escape. As you do, you grab under the elbow and tricep and you're going to turn your body inward, performing tenkan to the inside of his body. Positioning is similar to ippon seoi nage or one arm shoulder throw. Here you can see the mechanics are closer to hijiate, where we apply pressure upward on the elbow, push down on the wrist, and then of course extend forward, throwing him with our body. Escape the wrist and pivot, turning into him. As we do, we're going to make sure that we go tenkan slightly, as we also shuffle forward and end up in fudo dachi, as we extend our shoulder forward to throw him. Again, you can apply a little more pressure to the elbow as you do this, but because this is a beginning level technique, we're not going to put a lot of emphasis on it, but we still want to make sure that we do the escape properly, we get our body in position, and we extend forward for the throw. Here's a variation where you can drop to your knees. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Aikido's Edge. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe just so we can make more content.